think someone needs a brown marker.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, no.
She used the J word.
Scale, I'm the definition of calm.
Device know how things are run around here.
Try to stay... Affirmative, Commander.
Bullseye!
Hey, wait for us!
Few films have captured the anxiety of a wary older generation looking at a seemingly lost youngest generation with greater perceptiveness than Toy Story 5. The latest addition to a Pixar franchise many hoped would conclude with the fittingly aching third installment is back, with a different spin on the fear of abandonment felt by aging humans, as held by these sentient figures. Rather than centering Woody, Tom Hanks, and Buzz Lightyear, Tim Allen, though both have a sizable influence on this narrative, this film considers Jessie Joan Cusack, the cowgirl who came into the fold after enduring a heartbreaking abandonment decades ago. The decision to return to the Toy Story universe after what many considered a perfect conclusion comes with significant expectations and understandable skepticism. After all, Toy Story 3 provided such a emotionally satisfying and narratively complete ending that the very idea of continuing the story seemed unnecessary at best and potentially damaging to the franchise's legacy at worst. Yet Pixar, under the skilled direction of Andrew Stanton, the creative mind behind Finding Nemo and Wall-E, has found a compelling reason to revisit Andy's former toys and their new life with Bonnie. This recentering not only allows the franchise to further explore the emotions of one of its primary characters but also interrogates the importance of play in a digital world, addressing perhaps the most pressing concern facing contemporary childhood, the erosion of imaginative play in favor of screen-based entertainment. A new protagonist for a new era, Jessie takes center stage. The choice to make Jessie the primary protagonist represents both a creative risk and a narratively sound decision. Throughout the previous installments, Jessie has remained a compelling supporting character, her backstory, memorably depicted in the heartbreaking "When She Loved Me" sequence from Toy Story 2, providing one of the franchise's most emotionally devastating moments. Her abandonment by Emily, who outgrew her beloved cowgirl doll, left psychological scars that manifest as claustrophobia and a deep-seated fear of being forgotten. By placing Jessie at the narrative center, Toy Story 5 allows for a deeper exploration of abandonment trauma and how past wounds inform present reactions. Jessie's experiences make her uniquely positioned to comment on the contemporary childhood experience, having witnessed firsthand how growing up and moving on can devastate those left behind. Her perspective provides the film with an emotional anchor that feels earned rather than manufactured, building upon 25 years of character development. Joan Cusack returns to voice the spirited cowgirl, bringing the same energy and emotional depth that made Jessie an instant fan favorite upon her introduction. Cusack's performance navigates the complex emotional terrain the script demands, balancing Jessie's assertiveness and leadership qualities with her underlying vulnerabilities and fears. The voice work captures both the character's determination and her desperation, making Jessie's journey feel authentic and emotionally resonant. Bonnie's struggle, childhood in the digital age. That exploration jumpstarts when a now 8-year-old Bonnie, Scarlett Spears, faces the tallest struggle of them all: she needs to make friends. But Bonnie, who still plays with toys, like imagining a wedding between Forky Tony Hale and his plastic knife companion Karen Beverly in the animated movie's lighthearted opening scene, is different from her technophile classmates and neighbors. The film opens with a delightful sequence that immediately establishes both Bonnie's imaginative nature and her isolation. The wedding between Forky and his plastic knife girlfriend is rendered with all the earnestness and elaborate storytelling that children bring to their play. Bonnie has created voices, backstories, and an entire narrative universe for her plastic utensil characters. It's charming, creative, and increasingly rare in a world where children's entertainment is often passive rather than participatory. This opening scene serves multiple purposes. It reminds longtime fans of the joy of the franchise's premise. The Secret Life of Toys establishes Bonnie's character as someone who still engages in traditional imaginative play, and sets up the central conflict by highlighting how this very quality makes her different from her peers. In a world where most children her age are absorbed in tablets, smartphones, and video games, Bonnie's continued devotion to physical toys marks her as an outsider. That gap makes Bonnie shy about asking the twin boys next door to play with her. The film sensitively portrays the social anxiety that accompanies being different, especially in childhood when conformity often feels like survival. Bonnie wants friends desperately, but she's also aware that her interests don't align with her potential playmates. This awareness creates a painful self-consciousness, a recognition that to be accepted, she might need to hide or change fundamental aspects of who she is. The introduction of Lily, technology as character. To help their daughter, Bonnie's parents get her a frog-shaped tablet called LilyPad, aka Lily Greta Lee. The new device immediately causes disruption in the utopian household. Jessie, still scarred from when Emily left her, attempts to limit Lily's control. The character of Lily represents one of the film's most interesting creative choices. By making the tablet a sentient character voiced by the talented Greta Lee, star of Past Lives, the film personifies technology in a way that allows for genuine dramatic conflict. Lily isn't portrayed as inherently evil or malicious, rather, she's programmed with a specific purpose, to connect Bonnie with peers and provide entertainment, and she pursues that purpose with single-minded efficiency. Greta Lee brings nuance to what could have been a one-dimensional antagonist. Her voice work gives Lily a sleek, modern confidence that contrasts sharply with Jessie's more traditional, earthy energy. There's something slightly unsettling about Lily's relentless positivity and her algorithmic approach to friendship, but Lee ensures the character never becomes a caricature. Lily genuinely believes she's helping Bonnie, even as her methods prioritize quantity of connections over quality of relationships. The design of Lily is worth noting, a frog-shaped tablet that's simultaneously appealing and slightly alien. The frog motif connects to traditional childhood imagery. Frogs and tadpoles have long been associated with growth and transformation in children's media, while the tablet form grounds the character in contemporary reality. The animation team has rendered Lily with a glossy, screen-perfect sheen that makes her look perpetually new and flawless, contrasting with the worn, loved appearance of the traditional toys. Competing philosophies, organic versus digital connection. She proclaims that what Bonnie needs is to meet friends the old-fashioned way, through playtimes and in-person conversations. Lily, on the other hand, zooms ahead with her plan to connect Bonnie with classmates via friend requests, digital invites, and online gaming, aiming to hide who Bonnie actually is while making friends with people she barely knows. This philosophical conflict forms the thematic heart of Toy Story 5. Jessie represents a traditional approach to childhood and friendship, one built on physical presence, shared imaginative play, and authentic self-expression. Her vision of friendship involves Bonnie being brave enough to show her true self, to invite the neighbor kids over for toy-based adventures, to risk rejection but potentially gain genuine connection. Lily's approach reflects contemporary social dynamics, particularly as mediated through technology. She encourages Bonnie to create an appealing online persona, to connect with classmates through digital platforms before meeting in person, to find common ground through multiplayer games rather than physical play. There's an implicit understanding in Lily's strategy that Bonnie should curate her presentation, emphasizing aspects of herself that will be well received while downplaying or hiding characteristics that might be considered weird or uncool. The film doesn't present this conflict simplistically, which is one of its significant strengths. Both approaches have merit and limitations. Jessie's traditional methods are grounded in authenticity but require a level of bravery and social confidence that Bonnie doesn't yet possess. Lily's digital strategies can provide a less intimidating entry point to social connection but risk creating shallow relationships based on false pretenses. If Toy Story 5 inches sounds like it straddles the line between old man yells at clouds and cautionary tale, that's because it does. The film is remarkably self-aware about its own positioning in cultural debates about technology and childhood. The script, co-written by Stanton and Kenna Harris,
rejection and redirection. Jessie makes plenty of soapbox speeches about what Bonnie needs and the kind of kid she thinks Bonnie is. But her assumptions are shaken when, after tagging along to Bonnie's first sleepover, she and Bullseye are thrown back in the car after an embarrassed Bonnie becomes self-conscious about having toys. This sequence represents a crucial turning point for both Bonnie and Jessie. After Lily's interventions help Bonnie secure an invitation to a sleepover with classmates, Jessie is optimistic that this represents progress toward genuine friendship. In classic Toy Story fashion, Jessie and Bullseye sneak along to observe and ensure things go well. The animation during the sleepover sequence is particularly effective at capturing the social dynamics of childhood gatherings. The other children are absorbed in their devices, playing multiplayer games and watching videos. When Bonnie's toys accidentally spill from her bag, the moment is rendered with excruciating awkwardness. The other children's reactions, a mix of surprise, judgment, and barely concealed mockery, devastate Bonnie. In her desperation to fit in, she claims the toys aren't hers, hastily stuffing them back in her bag and asking her parents to come get her. This rejection cuts Jessie deeply, layering new abandonment atop old wounds. Being literally thrown into a car and discarded because Bonnie is ashamed to be associated with toys triggers Jesse's trauma around Emily's abandonment. The parallel is clear. Just as Emily outgrew Jesse, Bonnie seems to be moving in the same direction, choosing peer acceptance over her beloved toys. The scene also complicates Jesse's assumptions about what Bonnie needs. Jesse believed that if Bonnie could just get in a room with potential friends, her natural warmth and creativity would win them over. She underestimated how much childhood culture has changed, how thoroughly digital entertainment has supplanted traditional play for many children. Bonnie's imagination, her greatest gift in Jesse's eyes, has become a source of shame rather than connection. An unexpected journey. Returning to Emily's house. Jesse and Bullseye are eventually picked up by an elderly couple, who, upon finding Emily's address scribbled inside Jesse's chaps, return her and Bullseye to Emily's former home. Instead of finding Emily, however, Jesse discovers the house has new occupants, an 8-year-old Blaze Michelle Harris and her mother. This narrative development represents both a bold choice and a potential healing opportunity for Jesse. The discovery of Emily's address, a detail inscribed inside Jesse's clothing decades ago, provides a literal connection to Jesse's past and a pathway toward resolution of her trauma. The fact that an elderly couple would go to such lengths to return a lost toy to its owner speaks to the film's faith in human kindness and the enduring significance people attach to childhood objects. However, Emily is long gone, and the house has new occupants. This could have been a devastating dead end, but instead, it opens new possibilities. Blaze, voiced by young actress Michelle Harris, known for her work in Mixed-ish, represents another child struggling with similar issues as Bonnie, a love of traditional play that sets her apart from peers increasingly absorbed in digital entertainment. The parallel between Blaze and Bonnie is intentional and thematically rich. Both girls are 8 years old, both are creative and imaginative, both feel isolated because their interests don't align with their peers. They represent children who have maintained a connection to traditional play despite cultural pressures to abandon it. In Jesse's eyes, they would be perfect. Friends for each other, kindred spirits who could support and validate each other's interests. Obsolete but not worthless, the discarded devices. Jesse's only chance of getting back to Bonnie comes from Blaze's discarded, obsolete devices, such as a GPS hippo called Atlas Craig Robinson, a camera named Snappy Shelby Ribara, and the handheld toilet training game Smarty Pants Conan O'Brien. The introduction of these obsolete electronic toys adds another layer to the film's exploration of technology and obsolescence. Unlike Lily, who is new and cutting-edge, Atlas, Snappy, and Smarty Pants represent yesterday's technology, devices that were once exciting innovations but have been superseded by newer, more capable alternatives. They understand what it means to be replaced and discarded, giving them common ground with the traditional toys. Craig Robinson voices Atlas, the GPS hippo, with characteristic warmth and humor. Atlas remembers when he was essential, when Blaze's family relied on him for navigation before smartphones with built-in GPS made standalone devices redundant. There's a melancholy to Atlas's character. He knows exactly how to get anywhere but has nowhere to go, no one who needs his services. Robinson brings dignity to the character, ensuring Atlas remains sympathetic rather than pathetic. Snappy, the camera toy voiced by Shelby Ribara, captures the bittersweet nature of technological progress. She was designed to introduce children to photography, allowing them to take low-resolution digital photos. In an era of smartphone cameras capable of professional quality images, Snappy's 0.3 megapixel camera is laughably obsolete. Yet she retains pride in her function and the memories she helped create, even if those memories are now stored in formats that are difficult to access. Conan O'Brien provides the voice for Smarty Pants, a handheld toilet training game that helped Blaze master bathroom independence. O'Brien's comedic timing makes Smarty Pants consistently entertaining, but beneath the humor is genuine pathos. Smarty Pants served a crucial developmental purpose and then became unnecessary, stored in a drawer and eventually discarded. His entire existence was defined by a brief period of intensive use followed by permanent retirement. These characters allow the film to explore the life cycle of technology, how devices that are revolutionary in one moment become disposable the next. Their obsolescence isn't a commentary on their value or the role they played, it's simply the nature of technological progress. This parallels the toys' experience. They become obsolete, not because they're broken or useless but because children grow up and move on. Balancing multiple narratives. Woody and Buzz's subplot. Andrew Stanton's film, which he co-wrote with Kenna Harris, thoughtfully marries new characters with classic personalities. Because while Jesse's adventures with the trio of devices provide 2/3 of the film, the other third involves Woody and Buzz. The decision to include Woody and Buzz in significant supporting roles represents a careful balancing act. These characters are the franchise's foundation, voiced by beloved actors Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, and their presence provides continuity and comfort for longtime fans. However, making them the focus would have undermined the film's goals of expanding the universe and exploring new themes through Jesse's perspective. Stanton and Harris navigate this challenge by giving Woody and Buzz their own subplot that complements rather than competes with Jesse's journey. While Jessie is physically separated from the group, experiencing her own adventure and character growth, Woody and Buzz remain with Bonnie's other toys, dealing with their own challenges and changes. The writing still features the macho toys' previous friendly rivalry while considering their present angst. Buzz is too nervous to propose to Jessie, and Woody, who returns from the fairgrounds to help his friends, like Rex Wallace Shawn, Mr. Potato Head, Jeff Bergman, and more, confront aging. Buzz's romantic subplot provides unexpected emotional depth and character development. Throughout the franchise, Buzz has been characterized by confidence bordering on arrogance, particularly in the first film, when he genuinely believed he was a space ranger, and unflinching courage. To see him paralyzed by nervousness about proposing to Jessie humanizes him in new ways. While Buzz's personal hang-ups allow the film to subvert gender expectations by rendering Buzz as bashful, less is done with Woody. This represents one of the film's few missteps. Woody has always been the emotional center of the franchise, the character whose fears and insecurities drive much of the narrative tension. Here, his role is more limited, serving primarily to facilitate others' stories rather than experiencing significant development himself. Sure, there are running bits that poke fun at his weight gain and shiny bald spot, but they remain as jokes. They never ladder into anything more existential. What does it feel like for a toy to grow old? This question is raised but never fully explored. We see visual evidence of Woody's aging, the physical wear that comes from decades of play and adventure, but the film doesn't delve deeply into the psychological or emotional dimensions of this experience. This feels like a missed opportunity, particularly given the franchise's history of mining deep emotional truth from the premise of toys' secret lives. Previous installments have explored fear of replacement, loss of purpose, and the bittersweet nature of children growing up. The experience of aging as a toy, becoming not just obsolete but physically worn down, could have provided rich material for exploration. However, this criticism should be understood in context. Toy Story 5 Inches is already juggling multiple plotlines, themes, and character arcs. The focus on Jessie's journey and the film's meditation on technology and authentic connection may have simply left insufficient narrative space for a deep dive into Woody's aging. The comic treatment of his physical changes, while not as profound as it could have been, at least acknowledges the passage of time and its effects.
The quest to unite kindred spirits. Toy Story 5 Inches abandons that question to keep focus on Jessie and her quest to unite Blaze and Bonnie. She thinks they would make great friends because they're outcasts made so by their imagination and their love of play. Jessie's mission crystallizes around a clear, achievable goal: bring these two lonely, imaginative girls together. This objective gives the film's second and third acts forward momentum while maintaining thematic coherence. Jessie isn't just trying to get back to Bonnie out of duty or fear of abandonment, she's pursuing a plan that could genuinely improve Bonnie's life and solve the problem that sparked the entire narrative. The quest format allows for adventure sequences that recall the best moments of previous Toy Story films. Jessie, Bullseye, and the obsolete devices must navigate the challenges of crossing a suburban landscape from Blaze's house to Bonnie's, a journey that, from a toy's perspective, is epic in scope. The film stages several creative set pieces during this journey, leveraging both the traditional toy's abilities and the electronic device's unique capabilities. Atlas's GPS function, while outdated, proves crucial for navigation. Snappy's camera helps them scout ahead and document their journey. Smarty Pants's various minigames, while originally designed for toilet training, translate into useful skills for the adventure. The film finds clever ways to make these obsolete technologies relevant again, suggesting that outdated doesn't mean useless, a message that resonates both literally and metaphorically. Jessie's pursuit requires her to vanquish former demons and to make peace with technology. This dual challenge drives her character development throughout the film. Confronting her abandonment issues means accepting that children growing up and changing doesn't necessarily mean they stop loving their toys or that the time spent together was meaningless. Emily moving on from Jessie wasn't a rejection of Jessie's worth but a natural part of human development. Making peace with technology proves equally challenging for Jessie. Her initial antagonism toward Lily stems partly from legitimate concerns about the quality of digital connections versus in-person relationships, but also from fear that technology will replace traditional toys entirely. Through her journey with Atlas, Snappy, and Smarty Pants, Jessie learns that technology isn't monolithic. Some devices are designed to connect people, others to capture memories, others to teach and support development. Technology can be a tool for human growth and connection rather than an obstacle to it. The film's refusal to demonize technology while still questioning some of its applications represents a nuanced approach to a complex issue. Lily's methods aren't entirely wrong, but neither are they sufficient. Genuine friendship requires vulnerability and authenticity, qualities that can be harder to cultivate in carefully curated digital spaces. At the same time, Jessie's insistence on traditional approaches only ignores the reality of contemporary childhood culture and Bonnie's legitimate struggle to fit in. Playing it safe, the film's cautious approach. In that sense, this film doesn't take many risks. It's your prototypically beautifully rendered movie tackling a heady subject in the safest possible manner. Pixar was never going to make a technophobic animated picture. This observation identifies both a strength and a limitation of Toy Story 5. On one hand, the film's balanced, moderate approach to its central themes makes it accessible to broad audiences and avoids alienating viewers who might have different perspectives on technology's role in childhood. On the other hand, this caution means the film stops short of making truly bold statements or taking creative risks that might have elevated it from very good to exceptional. Pixar's corporate position makes a genuinely technophobic film impossible. The studio is owned by Disney, a media conglomerate with significant investments in digital platforms, streaming services, and technology-based entertainment. Beyond corporate considerations, Pixar itself is a technology company. Its innovations in computer animation have revolutionized filmmaking. The studio is fundamentally invested in technology as a tool for storytelling and artistic expression. Given these constraints, the film's "Find a Balance" message is probably the strongest statement it could make. The script acknowledges that technology is inevitable and often beneficial while cautioning against allowing it to completely supplant traditional forms of play, creativity, and human connection. This is reasonable, moderate, and unlikely to inspire passionate disagreement, which is both good and bad. But even without the possibility of this film making a grander statement beyond, we've got to find a balance between technology and organic living. It does engender a couple of scenes that rise to the emotional level of the Toy Story 3 Inches incinerator sequence. The comparison to the incinerator sequence from Toy Story 3 Inches sets an extremely high bar. That scene, in which the toys face apparent death together, holding hands as they slide toward fiery destruction, represents one of the most emotionally powerful moments in animated film history. It works because it combines genuine stakes, earned character relationships, and sophisticated understanding of mortality and acceptance. That Toy Story 5 Inches achieves moments approaching that emotional intensity, even occasionally, represents a significant accomplishment. While the review doesn't specify which scenes achieve this level of impact, we can infer that they likely involve Jessie confronting her abandonment trauma or moments of genuine connection between Bonnie and Blaze facilitated by Jessie's intervention. These scenes would need to tap into deep wells of emotion, fear, hope, love, loss, acceptance, to merit comparison with the franchise's highest emotional peaks. The film's visual presentation, typical of Pixar's high standards, undoubtedly enhances these emotional moments. The studio's animators have become increasingly sophisticated at capturing subtle facial expressions, body language, and environmental details that communicate emotional states without dialogue. The technology that allows for such nuanced animation is itself a reminder that digital tools can enhance rather than diminish artistic expression and emotional communication. A real-world resonance, the power of simple messages. Admittedly, however, when I left this sequel, walking into a stormy Chicago night that caused everyone's phones in the screening to eerily ring off with a tornado warning, I wasn't terribly high on it. This personal anecdote grounds the review in specific experience while adding an ironic layer to the film's themes. The tornado warning, a genuinely important use of smartphone technology that potentially saves lives, arriving as the reviewer exits a film questioning technology's role in human connection, creates a thought-provoking juxtaposition. Technology can be frivolous and isolating, but it can also be essential and protective. The situation embodies the complexity the film attempts to address. The reviewer's initial lukewarm response is honest and relatable. Not every film lands with immediate impact. Sometimes our relationship with art develops over time and through reflection. The fact that the reviewer wasn't terribly high on the film initially suggests that its messages might have felt heavy-handed or its emotional beats might not have landed with full force in the moment. To ride out the rain, I stepped into a bar where I found a Canadian couple traveling through the city to Wisconsin for a wedding. We spoke about Toy Story 5 Inches and its premise, sharing stories about yesteryears where imagination was our device. The conversation with strangers about the film represents exactly the kind of organic, in-person connection the film advocates for. Rather than scrolling through social media or reading reviews on a device while waiting out the storm, the reviewer engaged in face-to-face conversation with fellow moviegoers. This real-world demonstration of the film's message, that valuable connections come from authentic in-person interaction, begins to shift the reviewer's perspective. The sharing of stories about yesteryears where imagination was our device illustrates generational memory of pre-digital childhood. These conversations often carry a nostalgic tone, remembering when children's entertainment required active participation and creativity rather than passive consumption. Whether this nostalgia accurately represents the past or romanticizes it is debatable, but the emotional truth, that something has been lost as childhood has become increasingly mediated by screens, resonates across generations. They also spoke about their children and how one was enraptured by technology while the other one still played with toys. This real-world example validates the film's premise. The Canadian couple's experience, raising two children with different relationships to technology and traditional play, demonstrates that the film is addressing genuine contemporary parenting challenges rather than constructing straw-man arguments. Some children naturally gravitate towards screens while others maintain interest in physical toys, most fall somewhere on a spectrum between these poles. The parent's implicit concern about the child, enraptured by technology, reflects widespread anxiety about screen time, digital addiction, and the developmental impacts of replacing physical play with virtual entertainment. Research on these topics is evolving and sometimes contradictory, but parental intuition that something important is lost when children spend most of their time on devices persists across cultures and contexts. As they spoke, I thought about Stanton's film, his simple message to children to play and to find friends by being brave enough to show who you really are. This distillation of the film's message strips away complexity to reach its emotional core. On the surface, be yourself and find friends through authentic connection, is advice so commonplace as to border on cliché. Yet the film earns this message through its narrative, making it feel genuine rather than perfunctory. The message's simplicity is appropriate for the film's primary audience, children navigating social dynamics and parents guiding them through contemporary childhood challenges. Complex philosophical arguments about technology and human connection might satisfy adult critics but would alienate young viewers. By keeping the central message clear and emotionally accessible, the film ensures it can be understood and absorbed by viewers across age ranges. I couldn't help but be moved by the animated picture's digestible message, which resonates not only with parents and children alike but also with those worried about a social media culture that values creating an impossible standard by prioritizing image over being yourself. The reviewer's growing appreciation for the film illustrates how personal experience and reflection can deepen engagement with art. What initially seemed like a safe, unremarkable treatment of its themes has revealed unexpected relevance through real-world connection and conversation. The film's message has traveled from screen to mind to heart through the mediation of human interaction. The connection to social media culture and its emphasis on curated self-presentation extends the film's relevance beyond childhood to contemporary adult life. The pressure to maintain carefully constructed online personas, to present idealized versions of ourselves that bear little resemblance to our actual lives and personalities, creates anxiety and isolation across age groups. Children learning to navigate social connections in digital spaces are absorbing these values early, potentially internalizing the belief that their authentic selves are insufficient or shameful. We're losing something uniquely human between tabs, under signal strength, and over social content. Toy Story 5 Inches hopes to claw us back to reality. This concluding statement captures both the film's ambition and its limitations. The metaphor of losing humanity, between tabs, under signal strength, and over social content, evokes the fragmentation and mediation of contemporary existence. Our lives are increasingly divided between multiple platforms, dependent on technological infrastructure, and documented for content creation rather than lived for their own sake. The film's hope to claw us back to reality is simultaneously modest and audacious. Modest because a single animated film, no matter how emotionally resonant, cannot reverse broad cultural and technological trends. Audacious because it dares to suggest that storytelling can still influence behavior and values, that a movie about talking toys can inspire children and families to reconsider their relationship with technology and traditional play.
5 films in, singling out your favorite, Toy Story, movie feels like the animated kiddie fairy tale equivalent of naming your favorite Beatles album. You might have one, but why choose? These movies now add up to a canon greater than the sum of their boisterously funny, deliriously inventive parts. The truth is that the Toy Story movies are all beautiful, all brilliant, all different, and they work all together now. This comparison to the Beatles' discography is more than mere critical hyperbole, it speaks to the cultural significance and artistic achievement of Pixar's flagship franchise. Just as the Beatles revolutionized popular music and created a body of work that defined a generation, the Toy Story films have fundamentally transformed animated cinema while creating a multi-generational touchstone that resonates across age groups and demographics. The Beatles analogy also captures something essential about how we experience beloved franchises. Each album, or in this case, each film, can be someone's favorite depending on where they were in life when they first encountered it, what emotional chords it struck, and how it spoke to their particular moment. Yet the catalog works as a unified whole, each entry building on what came before while adding new dimensions and depths. They're a vision of childhood life and nostalgic tenderness, of jostling ego and maniacal slapstick fun, of pure movie-making enchantment. On that score, if the original Toy Story, still my favorite, is Meet the Beatles, and Toy Story 3 is Sgt. Pepper, the splendidly catchy and seductive Toy Story 5 feels like Abbey Road. It's a sublime summing up, a movie that reflects the whole series in its magic mirror, and, just maybe, a perfect ending. The extended Beatles metaphor deepens with these specific album comparisons. Meet the Beatles introduced the world to something revolutionary, just as the original Toy Story in 1995 premiered the first fully computer-animated feature film and proved that digital animation could tell emotionally sophisticated stories. Toy Story 3, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, represented an artistic peak, a work of such emotional intensity and narrative ambition that it seemed to define what the medium could achieve. Abbey Road, the Beatles' final recorded album, though not their last release, was a mature summation of everything they'd learned, blending accessibility with sophistication, honoring their past while pushing forward. Toy Story 5 occupies a similar position. It's potentially the franchise's swan song, a film that incorporates elements from all previous installments while addressing contemporary concerns that didn't exist when the series began. The phrase, just maybe a perfect ending, acknowledges both the film's achievement and the franchise's complicated relationship with endings. Toy Story 3 seemed like the perfect conclusion, with Andy giving his toys to Bonnie in a scene that left audiences emotionally devastated. Toy Story 4 inches extended the story, focusing on Woody's journey toward independence. Now, Toy Story 5 offers yet another potential conclusion, one that addresses the existential threat facing all toys in the modern world, the disappearance of play itself. The evolution of theme, from abandonment to obsolescence to disappearance. As the Toy Story films have evolved over 30 years, what's emerged as the grand and bittersweet theme is the notion of loss. The sadness of it, but also the inevitability of it, so perhaps it's not as sad as we first think. The toys, like the perpetually quarrelsome Woody and Buzz or Jessie the cowgirl, who now takes center stage, have seen their boy and girl owners grow up and leave them behind. The franchise's thematic evolution reflects both artistic maturation and the passage of real-world time. The original Toy Story dealt with replacement anxiety, Woody's fear that Buzz would supplant him in Andy's affections. This spoke to universal childhood experiences of jealousy and insecurity, but also to adult fears about becoming obsolete in professional or personal relationships. Toy Story 2 deepened this theme by introducing Jessie and her heartbreaking backstory of abandonment by Emily, her original owner. The "When She Loved Me" sequence, set to Sarah McLachlan's devastating song, portrayed loss as inevitable but no less painful for its inevitability. Children grow up, interests change, and beloved objects are left behind, not through malice but through the natural progression of life. Toy Story 3 confronted mortality directly, with the incinerator sequence serving as a metaphor for death and the toys' hand-holding acceptance representing a profound meditation on facing the end together. Andy's departure for college and his decision to give his toys to Bonnie provided bittersweet resolution. The toys would have a new child, but their relationship with Andy, the person who defined their existence, was fundamentally over. Toy Story 4 explored autonomy and self-actualization, asking whether toys exist solely to be played with or whether they can find meaning independently. Woody's decision to stay with Bo Peep and help lost toys represented choosing personal fulfillment over traditional purpose. That makes the toys feel almost like parents now, watching their children go off into the world. The movies deal with the specter of obsolescence, but also its happy twin, rebirth. This inversion of the typical parent-child dynamic adds poignancy to the franchise's exploration of loss. From the toys' perspective, they are the stable, enduring presence while their child owners are the ones who change, grow, and eventually leave. This mirrors how children experience their parents as permanent fixtures even as the children themselves transform through development and maturation. The specter of obsolescence has haunted the franchise from the beginning, but each film has found different angles on this central fear. Obsolescence can mean being replaced by a newer toy, being outgrown as a child matures, being damaged beyond repair, or, as Toy Story 5 explores, becoming irrelevant as the entire cultural practice of playing with toys disappears. Yet the films consistently locate rebirth alongside obsolescence. Woody and the gang find new life with Bonnie after Andy. Toys at Sunnyside Daycare are perpetually rediscovering purpose with new children. Lost toys create meaning through helping others. The franchise refuses nihilism, insisting that obsolescence isn't annihilation, it's transformation and opportunity for new beginnings. The new crisis, the disappearance of play. Now, in Toy Story 5, a new theme emerges that's hauntingly and movingly of its time, the disappearance of play. Bonnie, voiced by Scarlett Spears, who is 8, still plays with red rope-haired Jessie, Joan Cusack, and her trusty steed, Bullseye, Alan Cumming. But she doesn't seem able to make friends with the other kids in the neighborhood. Why not? Because no one plays with toys anymore. This premise taps into widespread contemporary anxiety about childhood in the digital age. The concern isn't merely that children are playing differently, it's that they're not playing at all in the traditional sense. The unstructured, imaginative, physical play that has characterized childhood for generations is being replaced by screen-based entertainment that's more structured, less physically active, and arguably less creative. The casting of Scarlett Spears as Bonnie provides fresh vocal energy while maintaining continuity with the character established in previous films. At 8 years old, Bonnie is at a critical developmental moment, old enough to be aware of social dynamics and peer pressure, but young enough that imaginative play should still be central to her life. That she's increasingly isolated because of her continued interest in toys speaks to how quickly childhood norms have shifted. The detail about Jessie's red rope hair, and the mention of Bullseye being voiced by Alan Cumming, adding vocal characterization to what has been a largely silent character in previous films, demonstrates the care Pixar takes with even minor details. These aren't just generic toys, they're specific, lovingly rendered characters with distinctive features and personalities. The kids are all on their screens now, an invasion of tech the movie portrays as having caused a paradigm shift in child relationships. The word, invasion, is telling, suggesting something aggressive and unwelcome rather than a natural evolution. This framing positions technology not as a neutral tool but as an occupying force that has fundamentally altered the landscape of childhood. The paradigm shift in child relationships refers to how friendships are now mediated through technology, formed online, maintained through messaging and social media, and often lacking the face-to-face interaction and physical play that characterized previous generations' friendships. Research on this shift presents mixed findings. Some studies suggest screen time is displacing important developmental activities and contributing to increased anxiety and depression in young people. Other research indicates that digital connections can provide valuable social support, particularly for children who might be isolated or marginalized in their physical communities. Toy Story 5 enters this debate from a particular perspective, clearly valuing traditional play while trying to avoid complete demonization of technology. The age of toys is over, declares an ancient discarded toy in mopey misery. As if in defeat, Bonnie's parents buy her a lily pad, a talking kiddie tablet, voiced by Greta Lee, with a green frog frame. This proclamation of doom carries the weight of existential threat. If the age of toys is truly over, then every character we've come to love over 5 films faces irrelevance and abandonment. The stakes are no longer about individual toys being replaced or outgrown, it's about the entire category of objects becoming obsolete as childhood itself transforms. The parents' decision to buy Bonnie a tablet is portrayed as capitulation, as if in defeat, suggesting the giving up on helping Bonnie develop traditional friendships and instead offering a technological solution to a fundamentally human problem. This reflects real-world parenting dilemmas. When your child struggles socially, do you help them adapt to how other children are actually interacting, through devices and online platforms, or insist they continue pursuing traditional connection methods that may leave them further isolated? Greta Lee, fresh from her acclaimed performance in Past Lives, brings sophisticated vocal work to Lilypad, Lily. Lee's casting suggests this character will have nuance and depth rather than serving as a simple antagonist. The green frog frame makes the tablet appealing to children while the talking feature gives it personality and the ability to actively influence Bonnie's behavior. The seduction of instant connection. Bonnie quickly becomes addicted to it, discovering that by communicating with other kids online, she can make friends instantly. Within 15 minutes, she's got a playdate. But as the film knows all too well, and as too many adults have forgotten, friends made through a technological connection aren't the same as friends you share the same space with, the friends you truly play with. The word, addicted, is deliberately chosen, invoking the language of substance abuse and behavioral addiction that increasingly characterizes discussions of screen time and digital device use. Tech companies employ psychologists and behavioral scientists to make their products maximally engaging, using variable reward schedules, notification systems, and social feedback mechanisms that activate the same neural pathways as gambling and other addictive behaviors. The appeal of instant friendship is obvious, especially for a socially struggling child like Bonnie. Traditional friendship requires vulnerability, approaching someone, risking rejection, navigating complex social dynamics. Digital connection offers a lower stakes entry point. Send a friend request, exchange messages, arrange a meetup. The initial barriers are significantly reduced. But as the film argues, and as research on digital communication supports, these technologically mediated connections often lack the depth and authenticity of friendships built through shared physical experiences. Online interaction filters out much of the nonverbal communication that builds emotional connection: body language, tone of voice, physical proximity, shared sensory experiences. You can message someone constantly without ever truly knowing them. The phrase, "as too many adults have forgotten," is particularly pointed. Adults who grew up with traditional play but now conduct much of their social lives through social media, text messaging, and other digital platforms have often forgotten or dismissed the qualitative difference between screen-mediated and in-person connection. The film suggests that adults, having normalized their own digital social lives, are failing to protect or preserve traditional play for children. The observation that real friends are the friends you truly play with returns to the film's central concern. Play, particularly imaginative, unstructured play, requires presence, attention, collaboration, negotiation, creativity, and physical interaction. It's fundamentally different from online gaming or digital communication, even when those activities are enjoyable and social in their own right. The power and purpose of imaginative play. What Toy Story 5 is talking about is what's known as imaginative play, and that's not just an activity. It's a whole dimension, a way for kids to take the universe that's in their heads and extend it out into the world. When imaginative play happens in Toy Story 5, the film depicts it in high comedy sequences of spangly fluorescent color, where the action is hilariously straight from a child's brain. The film's visual representation of imaginative play sounds spectacular. Spangly fluorescent color, and hilariously straight from a child's brain action suggests sequences that capture the unbounded creativity and logical impossibility of children's imaginary worlds. When kids play, narrative rules, physical laws, and conventional logic don't apply. A doll can marry a spork, a dinosaur can operate a spaceship, a cowgirl can fight alongside a space ranger. Whatever the child's imagination conjures becomes temporarily real. This visual approach serves multiple purposes. First, it makes imaginative play look appealing and exciting, reminding child viewers, and their parents, of the joy and creativity that physical play can offer. Second, it distinguishes imaginative play from screen-based entertainment. The colors, energy, and absurdist logic of these sequences couldn't be replicated by an app or video game. Third, it honors children's interior lives, taking their imaginative play seriously as a legitimate form of creativity and meaning-making. The description of imaginative play as a whole dimension, rather than merely an activity, speaks to its developmental importance. Imaginative play isn't just entertainment, it's how children develop crucial cognitive, social, and emotional capacities. Through play, children practice narrative thinking, develop empathy by imagining other perspectives, work through emotional challenges, negotiate social roles and rules, build problem-solving skills, and develop self-regulation. Research in developmental psychology consistently demonstrates that imaginative play contributes to executive function development, emotional intelligence, creativity, and social competence. Children who engage in rich imaginative play show benefits in language development, abstract reasoning, and perspective taking. The decline of imaginative play, whether due to increased screen time, more structured schedules, or other factors, may have significant developmental implications. But the world isn't organized to support this anymore. After a sleepover arranged via kiddie tablet, Bonnie's new friends, who are like Mean Girl 8-year-olds, a byproduct of the computer age, make fun of her for still clinging to her old toys. This sequence represents the film's most painful moment, the social punishment for being different. The mean girl dynamic, typically associated with adolescence, appears here among 8-year-olds, suggesting that social hierarchies and cruelty are manifesting at younger ages. The characterization of this as a byproduct of the computer age implies that digital culture, with its emphasis on image management, social comparison, and performative interaction, accelerates social sophistication and meanness. The sleepover, traditionally a childhood ritual of bonding and play, becomes instead a scene of humiliation. Bonnie arrives with expectations shaped by traditional friendship, that she and her new friends might play together, share secrets, create memories. Instead, she encounters children whose idea of a sleepover centers on screens and who view her toys as embarrassing markers of immaturity. The quotation marks around friends are significant, indicating these aren't true friends despite being algorithmically matched by the tablet. They may share interests or proximity, but they lack the essential qualities of genuine friendship, acceptance, kindness, shared values. The tablet can arrange meetings but can't create authentic connection. A journey back to origins. Jessie and Bullseye wind up back at the farmhouse where Jessie's original child, Emily, once lived, and where there is now a 9-year-old named Blaze, Michael Michelle Harris. This return to Emily's former home represents a bold narrative choice, bringing Jessie full circle to the site of her original trauma. Throughout the franchise, Jessie's abandonment by Emily has defined her character. It's the source of her claustrophobia, her fear of being forgotten, and her fierce loyalty to her current child. Returning to this location opens possibilities for healing, closure, or deeper understanding of that formative loss. The fact that Emily is gone and the house has new occupants reflects the relentless passage of time. Emily, who was perhaps 10 years old in Toy Story 2, set in 1999, would now be in her 30s. She's moved on completely, while Jessie remains, unchanged physically but carrying decades of accumulated experience and emotion. The new occupant, Blaze, voiced by Michael Michelle Harris, represents another child who still engages in traditional play. At 9 years old, Blaze is slightly older than Bonnie but still young enough that toys should be age-appropriate. The parallel between these two girls, both outliers in a culture that has moved away from physical toys, sets up the film's central mission. The name, Blaze, suggests energy, brightness, and intensity, qualities that likely characterize her personality and imaginative play. Michael Michelle Harris, known for her work on Mixed-ish, brings experience with emotionally grounded comedy to the role, ensuring Blaze feels like a real child rather than a plot device. But pulling Bonnie back into the world of imaginative play will be no easy feat. It will take the machinations of Jessie and Woody, Tom Hanks, who's now a balding, old man, cowboy, all our familiar old toy friends, a trio of primitive tech devices, a potty trainer named Smarty Pants, Conan O'Brien, a kiddie camera named Snappy, Shelby Rabara, and a GPS hippo named Atlas, Craig Robinson, who are halfway between the analog and digital worlds, and an army of Buzz Lightyears stuck in demo mode, who have been massed into the multi-Buzz, a fighting force overseen by their fearless leader, Tim Allen. This synopsis of the film's elaborate plot demonstrates the ambitious scope of Toy Story 5. Rather than a simple story, the film assembles multiple character groups, each with distinct challenges and perspectives, into a coordinated effort to solve Bonnie's social isolation. Woody's characterization as a balding, old man, cowboy, adds poignant detail to his character arc. Throughout the franchise, Woody has been the leader, the problem solver, the toy who holds everyone together. Seeing him visibly aged, losing his painted hair, showing wear from decades of adventures, makes tangible the passage of time and the physical toll of being a well-loved toy. Tom Hanks, who has voiced Woody since 1995, brings nearly 30 years of history to the role, his own aging voice adding authenticity to Woody's evolution. The primitive tech devices represent a brilliant conceptual bridge between the analog world of traditional toys and the digital world of tablets and smartphones. These characters, educational toys with electronic components but physical forms and specific, limited functions, belong to neither category completely. They're old enough to be discarded and replaced by more sophisticated devices, giving them common cores with the traditional toys, but they're also electronic, giving them understanding of and perhaps connection to digital devices like Lily. The casting of these characters shows Pixar's commitment to comedy and character depth. Conan O'Brien as a potty training toy called Smarty Pants promises self-aware humor about the character's undignified function. Shelby Rabara, known for voicing Peridot in Steven Universe, as Snappy the camera brings experience with quirky, enthusiastic characters. Craig Robinson as Atlas the GPS hippo suggests a character with warmth and gentle humor alongside his navigational function. The concept of the multi-Buzz, an army of Buzz Lightyear toys stuck in demo mode, takes a concept introduced in Toy Story 3, the deluded Spanish Buzz, and expands it into a full fighting force. The image of Tim Allen's Buzz leading an army of himself has tremendous comic potential while also speaking to themes of identity, purpose, and collective action. Demo mode, which cycles through pre-programmed phrases and actions, represents a kind of imprisonment. These Buzz Lightyears can't be their full selves, trapped in limited functionality until someone purchases them and allows them to become real toys. Andrew Stanton, a fresh perspective on familiar territory. Andrew Stanton, the fabled Pixar director of Wall-E, now takes the reins of a Toy Story film for the first time, though he worked on all the others, and he's made a movie with an ambitious and delicious layer cake density. Andrew Stanton's involvement with Pixar dates back to the studio's earliest days. He co-wrote the original Toy Story, contributed to Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, and directed two of Pixar's most acclaimed films, Finding Nemo, 2003, and Wall-E, 2008. His directorial work is characterized by ambitious storytelling, emotional depth, and willingness to take creative risks. Wall-E, in particular, demonstrated Stanton's ability to tackle big themes, environmental destruction, consumerism, human connection, through accessible family entertainment. The film's extended dialogue-free opening section, following a solitary robot cleaning a post-apocalyptic Earth, showed Stanton's confidence in visual storytelling and trust in his audience's patience and intelligence. That Stanton has worked on all the others, but never directed a Toy Story film until now is significant. He's deeply familiar with the franchise's characters, themes, and storytelling approach, but he also brings a fresh directorial perspective unburdened by having established the series' visual language and narrative tone. He can honor what came before while pushing in new directions. The description of the film as having ambitious and delicious layer cake density suggests multiple storylines, thematic layers, and character arcs all carefully constructed to support and enhance each other. Like a layer cake, the film has distinct components that work individually but create something greater when combined. The word, delicious, implies that this complexity is pleasurable rather than overwhelming. The film wears its ambition lightly, delivering entertainment alongside substance. Where a lesser film would have made the story a battle between old-school good guys, toys, and new-school bad guy, screens, Toy Story 5 doesn't demonize tech life so much as depict it as a new metaphysical realm of the kiddie cosmos.
This approach distinguishes Toy Story 5 from reactionary technophobia or simplistic moralizing. Rather than portraying technology as evil or screens as enemies to be defeated, the film recognizes that digital devices and online interaction are now integral to childhood experience. They've created a new metaphysical realm, a legitimate dimension of contemporary life that exists alongside physical reality and imaginative play. The phrase, kiddie cosmos, beautifully captures the film's perspective. From a child's viewpoint, their world encompasses multiple realms: the physical world of home and school, the imaginative world of play and fantasy, the social world of peer relationships, and now the digital world of screens and online interaction. These realms overlap and influence each other in complex ways. By depicting technology as a realm rather than an enemy, the film can explore its genuine appeal and usefulness while questioning what happens when it dominates or displaces other realms. The problem isn't that the digital realm exists but that it's crowding out imaginative play and physical friendship. Balance is possible, but it requires intention and effort. This nuanced approach reflects sophisticated understanding of contemporary childhood. Parents and educators can't simply eliminate technology. It's too embedded in modern life, and digital literacy is increasingly essential. The challenge is ensuring children also develop other crucial capacities: creativity, physical activity, face-to-face social skills, unstructured play. The heart of the quest. The plot is elaborate, yet it all comes down to Jessie and her team trying to arrange for Bonnie and Blaze to have a playdate, because the girls who still have their heads in the real world. This distillation of the complex plot to its essential goal demonstrates effective storytelling. No matter how many subplots, characters, and set pieces the film includes, the central objective remains clear and emotionally resonant: bring together two lonely, imaginative girls who could be genuine friends for each other. The playdate, a routine childhood social arrangement, becomes the film's MacGuffin, the goal that drives all the action. This choice grounds the epic adventure in relatable, domestic reality. The toys aren't trying to escape a daycare center or reach a carnival, they're trying to facilitate a friendship. The stakes feel both modest, it's just a playdate, and enormous, it could restore Bonnie's connection to imaginative play and authentic friendship. The observation that Bonnie and Blaze still have their heads in the real world identifies what makes them compatible and valuable. In a culture increasingly mediated by screens, these girls maintain connection to physical reality, imaginative play, and embodied experience. They're not better than other children, but they're different, and that difference, which isolates them individually, could become a source of connection and strength if they find each other. Joan Cusack's Jessie, the heart and soul of the film. Joan Cusack, spouting out, ain't, and, don't, and lines like, holy butterscotch, makes Jessie a gruffly infectious good ol' girl. Joan Cusack's vocal performance as Jessie has been a highlight of the franchise since the character's introduction in Toy Story 2. Cusack brings distinctive energy and personality to the role, creating a character who is simultaneously tough and vulnerable, brash and insecure, a natural leader haunted by abandonment trauma. The specific dialect choices, ain't, and, don't, and exclamations like, holy butterscotch, root Jessie in a particular cultural milieu, the American West of classic cowboy movies and TV shows. This linguistic characterization makes Jessie feel authentic rather than generic, a specific character rather than a type. The old-fashioned quality of her speech also marks her as decidedly analog, connected to a pre-digital era of childhood entertainment. The description of Jessie as gruffly infectious captures her appeal. She's not soft or conventionally feminine, she's rough-edged, assertive, and commanding. But this gruffness is infectious, it draws others in rather than pushing them away. Jessie's authenticity and passion inspire loyalty and affection. Good ol' girl is a particularly interesting characterization, playing on the phrase, good ol' boy, but gender flipping it. The term suggests someone approachable, down-to-earth, loyal, and unpretentious, qualities that define Jessie throughout the franchise. She doesn't put on airs or perform femininity in conventional ways, she's unapologetically herself. She's got a romance going with Buzz, who's dying to propose to her, that becomes touchingly funny. When he flies in on a winged princess horse, we're in Toy Story heaven. The romance between Jessie and Buzz represents an interesting development for both characters. Throughout the previous films, Buzz has been characterized primarily through his relationship with Woody, their rivalry, friendship, and mutual respect defining both characters. His romantic interest in Jessie adds new dimension, showing him as capable of vulnerability and romantic feeling. That Buzz is dying to propose, but apparently struggling to actually do it, creates comic tension. Buzz, the fearless space ranger who faces danger without hesitation, is paralyzed by the prospect of proposing marriage. This gender role reversal, with the male character nervous about commitment while the female character is seemingly ready, subverts expectations and adds humor. The image of Buzz flying in, on a winged princess horse, beautifully blends his space ranger identity with fairy tale romance imagery. It's absurd and magical simultaneously, the kind of image that could only work in the Toy Story universe where toys live secret lives and anything is possible. The reviewer's declaration that we're in Toy Story heaven during this moment speaks to how the franchise can balance humor, romance, and visual spectacle in ways that feel earned rather than manipulative. The relationship between Jessie and Buzz also speaks to the film's themes. Two toys, both dealing with obsolescence and the changing world of childhood, find connection and meaning through their relationship with each other. Their romance suggests that even as external circumstances shift and the world of toys becomes increasingly precarious, authentic connection remains possible and valuable. Tom Hanks' Woody, senior resilience. Meanwhile, Hanks invests the vulnerable but stubborn Woody with a delectable senior resilience. Tom Hanks' performance as Woody across 5 films and nearly 30 years represents one of the great achievements in voice acting. Hanks has aged alongside the character, his own voice deepening and changing in ways that add authenticity to Woody's evolution from Andy's favorite toy to wise elder statesman of the toy community. The description of Woody as vulnerable but stubborn captures the character's essential contradiction. Woody has always been defined by insecurity, fear of being replaced, anxiety about his purpose, concern for his friends, but he's also obstinate and determined, refusing to give up even in seemingly hopeless situations. This combination of vulnerability and stubbornness has made him relatable and admirable simultaneously. Senior resilience is a perfect phrase for Woody's status in this film. He's visibly aged, showing physical wear that marks him as an old toy. But rather than becoming fragile or irrelevant, Woody has developed resilience, the capacity to endure, adapt, and continue contributing despite challenges. This resilience comes from experience, from having survived multiple existential crises, from having learned that obsolescence isn't the same as worthlessness. The word, delectable, suggests that Hank's performance is a pleasure to experience. After 3 decades with this character, Hanks brings such depth and nuance to the role that even small moments carry weight. We hear Woody's entire history in his voice, his loyalty to Andy, his friendship with Buzz, his romantic relationship with Bo Peep in Toy Story 4, his journey from jealous protagonist to selfless leader to independent toy. Woody's role in Toy Story 5 seems to be supporting rather than central. He's helping Jessie on her quest rather than leading his own narrative. This represents appropriate evolution. Woody has had his journey across 4 films, now it's time for other characters to take center stage while Woody offers wisdom, support, and occasional comic relief. Escalating delight and emotional gut punches. Toy Story 5, escalates in delight. The climactic wedding ceremony must be seen to be believed, but it also has moments that hit you like a gut punch. The promise of escalating delight suggests the film builds momentum throughout, each sequence becoming more creative, more visually spectacular, and more emotionally engaging than the last. This escalation is characteristic of the best Pixar films, which understand how to structure narratives so that they build rather than plateau. The climactic wedding ceremony sounds like a showstopper. Presumably Buzz's proposal to Jessie culminates in actual marriage, likely staged with the kind of elaborate, child-imagined ceremony that would combine multiple toy universes and defy all conventional wedding planning logic. The assertion that it must be seen to be believed indicates this sequence is visually spectacular and emotionally satisfying enough to serve as the film's climax. Weddings in children's films often serve as symbolic resolution, the union of two characters representing harmony, completion, and new beginnings. In Toy Story 5, a wedding between Buzz and Jessie would symbolize multiple things: that toys can create meaningful lives and relationships even as the world of childhood changes around them, that new chapters are possible even in later life, that love and commitment offer stability amid uncertainty. But the film isn't all delight. The reference to moments that hit you like a gut punch promises emotional intensity comparable to previous franchise high points. Jessie's abandonment flashback in Toy Story 2, the incinerator scene in Toy Story 3, Andy giving away his toys at the end of that same film, Woody's goodbye to his friends in Toy Story 4. These gut punch moments work because they're earned. The franchise has built such deep relationships with these characters over decades that their pain becomes our pain. When the film tackles profound questions about connection, meaning, and loss, it does so with emotional honesty that can devastate even adult viewers. For this is a movie that touches on a profound question: how will kids connect to each other in an era that wants them to grow up too fast by virtualizing themselves? This is the question at the heart of Toy Story 5, a question with implications far beyond the film's narrative. The phrase, "grow up too fast by virtualizing themselves," captures a complex contemporary concern. Growing up too fast refers to the loss of childhood's innocence, playfulness, and freedom, children exposed to adult content, social pressures, and performance expectations before they're developmentally ready. Virtualizing themselves speaks to how digital culture encourages people to create curated online personas that may bear little resemblance to their actual selves. Children learning to interact primarily through screens may develop facility with self-presentation and image management while struggling with authentic self-expression and genuine connection. The combination is particularly toxic: children losing the protective space of childhood while simultaneously learning to hide the true selves behind digital avatars and carefully managed social media profiles. They're denied both the innocence of childhood and the authenticity of genuine self-knowledge and acceptance. The film's concern is not just about screen time or technology use but about what's being lost: the ability to connect authentically, to show vulnerability, to play without self-consciousness, to develop friendships based on shared experience rather than shared followers. These capacities don't develop automatically. They require practice, opportunity, and cultural support, all of which are increasingly scarce. The film's simple but powerful message. The film's message is, slow down, be real and play. The fun you take is equal to the fun you make. This distillation of the film's message to three simple imperatives: slow down, be real, play, provides clear guidance for both children and parents navigating contemporary childhood. Slow down pushes back against the acceleration of modern life. Childhood increasingly feels rushed: structured activities, academic pressure, early specialization, constant scheduling. Imaginative play requires unstructured time, boredom that sparks creativity, space to let ideas develop organically. Slowing down means resisting cultural pressure to constantly optimize, achieve, and prepare for the future, instead allowing children to fully inhabit their present. Be real advocates for authenticity in an era of performance and curation. It encourages children to show their actual selves, interests, quirks, vulnerabilities, rather than crafting personas designed to maximize social approval. This is terrifying advice in a culture that can punish difference mercilessly, but it's also the only path to genuine connection and self-acceptance. Play is both the simplest and most radical imperative. just play, not structured activities, not educational games, not organized sports, although these have value. Rather, the unstructured, imaginative, child-directed play that adults tend to dismiss as waste of time but that actually serves crucial developmental functions. The final aphorism, "The fun you take is equal to the fun you make," plays on the Beatles lyric from The End, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. This connection to the earlier Beatles metaphor provides elegant closure while making a point about agency and creativity. Passive entertainment, the fun you take, has its place, but it's fundamentally limited. You consume what others have created. You experience what they've designed for you to experience. Active creation, the fun you make, through imaginative play, creative projects, or collaborative invention, offers deeper satisfaction and greater developmental benefit. You're not just consuming someone else's creativity, you're exercising your own. The equation suggests balance. Both types of fun have value, and ideally they exist in equal measure. The problem is that contemporary culture has dramatically skewed toward passive consumption. Children spend hours watching videos, playing pre-programmed games, scrolling through content, all fun you take. Opportunities for fun you make have diminished correspondingly.
Visual storytelling and animation excellence. Though the review doesn't extensively detail the film's animation quality, as a Pixar production, Toy Story 5 inches undoubtedly represents the cutting edge of computer animation technology. The studio that pioneered feature-length computer animation with the original Toy Story in 1995 has continuously pushed technical boundaries while maintaining focus on storytelling and emotional resonance. The description of imaginative play sequences in spangly fluorescent color suggests the film uses color and light to distinguish between different modes of reality. The real world of rooms and houses likely features naturalistic rendering, while the imaginative realm of children's play explodes in impossible colors and physics-defying action. This visual strategy makes the film's thematic argument visible. Imaginative play offers something vibrant and magical that screen-based entertainment cannot replicate. Character animation has likely reached new heights of expressiveness. The ability to capture subtle facial expressions, body language, and physical comedy that sells emotional beats without dialogue has been crucial to Pixar's success. With each film, the studio's animators become more adept at communicating complex emotions through character performance. The rendering of both traditional toys and electronic devices presents interesting challenges. Traditional toys like Woody and Jessie show wear, faded paint, loose stitching, scratches from years of play. This physical evidence of history makes them feel real and loved. Electronic devices like Lily would be rendered with smooth surfaces, bright screens, and pristine condition that emphasizes their newness but also their lack of history and emotional connection. Environmental design creates the world these characters inhabit. Bonnie's room, the farmhouse where Emily once lived, the journey between locations, each environment must be detailed enough to feel real while serving the story's needs. Pixar excels at creating spaces that communicate character and emotion through production design, lighting, and composition. Thematic resonance across generations. One of the franchise's remarkable achievements is its ability to speak to multiple generations simultaneously. Children enjoy the adventure, humor, and colorful characters. Parents connect with themes of parenting, letting go, and watching children grow up. Adults without children engage with questions of purpose, obsolescence, and finding meaning in changing circumstances. Toy Story 5 inches continues this tradition while adding new layers relevant to contemporary life. Children watching the film receive permission to continue imaginative play even if peers have moved on to screens. They see Bonnie struggling with the same social pressures they face and witness her finding friendship through authenticity rather than conformity. Parents watching the film confront their own complicity in the decline of imaginative play. The decision to buy Bonnie a tablet reflects real choices parents make when children struggle socially. The film doesn't judge these decisions harshly but does question whether technological solutions address underlying problems or merely paper over them. The film also speaks to grandparents and older adults watching childhood transform in ways that feel alien and concerning. The nostalgia for traditional play, the anxiety about screen time, the sense that something essential is being lost, these feelings are validated while the film works to avoid reactionary rejection of all change. Even young adults, the generation that grew up with the original Toy Story films, find relevance in the story. They're navigating a world where digital connection is Primary but often unsatisfying, where authentic self-presentation feels risky, where the creativity and imagination of childhood feel distant and inaccessible. The film's call to slow down, be real and play resonates beyond childhood, speaking to anyone feeling overwhelmed by the pace and performance demands of contemporary life. Cultural conversation and real-world impact. Films like Toy Story 5 Inches don't just reflect cultural concerns, they shape cultural conversations. By dramatizing the tension between traditional play and screen-based entertainment, the film gives parents and educators language to discuss these issues. By showing Bonnie's social struggles, it validates children who feel different or isolated because of their interests. The film's impact will extend beyond the 2 hours viewers spend watching it. Parents may reconsider screen time limits, toy purchases, or how they structure their children's free time. Teachers might incorporate more imaginative play into classroom activities. Children might feel empowered to invite friends over for traditional play rather than assuming everyone has moved on to digital entertainment. Cultural criticism of the film will likely split along predictable lines. Some will praise its defense of traditional childhood and imaginative play, seeing it as a necessary corrective to uncritical celebration of technology. Others will criticize it as nostalgic and reactionary, dismissing concerns about screen time as moral panic and arguing that children are simply playing differently rather than playing less. The most thoughtful responses will recognize the film's nuance, that it's not anti-technology but pro-balance, not dismissive of digital culture but concerned about what happens when it completely displaces other modes of play and connection. The film doesn't offer simple answers because the questions it raises don't have simple answers. How does Toy Story 5 Inches compare to its predecessors? The review's Beatles metaphor suggests it's a worthy culmination of the series, perhaps even a perfect ending. But each film has distinct strengths and appeals to different sensibilities. The original, Toy Story, 1995, has the freshness of innovation, the first feature-length computer-animated film, introducing beloved characters and establishing the franchise's emotional foundation. Its story of Woody's jealousy of Buzz is simple but profound, exploring universal feelings of displacement and the journey from rivalry to friendship. Toy Story 2 Inches 1999 expanded the universe, introducing Jessie and exploring abandonment through her devastating backstory. It grappled with mortality and obsolescence more directly than the first film while maintaining the humor and adventure that made the original successful. Toy Story 3 Inches 2010 represented the franchise's emotional peak for many viewers. The incinerator sequence remains one of the most powerful moments in animated film history, and Andy's goodbye to his toys devastated audiences worldwide. It seemed to provide perfect closure to the trilogy. Toy Story 4 Inches 2019 was controversial among fans for extending a story that seemed complete. But it offered Woody a new journey toward independence and self-actualization, asking whether toys exist solely to be played with or can find meaning otherwise. Bo Peep's return and Woody's decision to join her provided bittersweet but satisfying resolution to his character arc. Toy Story 5 Inches tackles the most contemporary concern of all the films, the disappearance of play in the digital age. By centering Jessie and addressing current childhood challenges, it justifies its existence while honoring what came before. Whether it matches the emotional heights of the third film or provides as satisfying an ending as that film did remains for individual viewers to judge. With 5 films spanning 3 decades, the Toy Story franchise has become a cultural touchstone, shaping how multiple generations understand childhood, friendship, and growing up. The films have accumulated such goodwill and cultural significance that they've transcended their status as children's entertainment to become genuinely important pieces of American cinema. The franchise's technical legacy is undeniable. The original Toy Story proved that computer animation could tell emotionally sophisticated stories, launching Pixar into prominence and fundamentally changing the animation industry. Each subsequent film has pushed technical boundaries while maintaining the focus on character and story that distinguishes the best Pixar work. Thematically, the films have provided a framework for discussing difficult subjects with children: jealousy, abandonment, mortality, growing up, letting go. Parents have used these films to open conversations about feelings and experiences that might otherwise be hard to articulate. The toys' struggles mirror human struggles in ways that are accessible but not diminished. Whether Toy Story 5 Inches truly serves as a perfect ending, or whether the franchise will continue remains to be seen. Pixar and Disney have strong financial incentives to continue producing sequels to their most successful franchises. But the filmmakers seem genuinely committed to only making new installments when they have stories worth telling rather than simply exploiting brand recognition. If this is indeed the final Toy Story film, it provides an ending focused on the future rather than the past, advocating for imaginative play, authentic connection, and hope that childhood can survive and adapt even amid massive cultural change. That's a legacy worth celebrating. Toy Story 5 Inches arrives at a cultural moment when concerns about childhood, technology, and authentic connection have reached critical mass. Parents struggle to manage screen time while modeling healthy technology use themselves. Educators witness declining attention spans and reduced capacity for sustained imaginative play. Children navigate social landscapes that require technological fluency while potentially undermining face-to-face connection skills. Into this fraught context comes a film that takes these concerns seriously without descending into technophobia or nostalgia. Toy Story 5 Inches recognizes that technology is here to stay and that digital literacy matters, but it also insists that imaginative play, authentic self-presentation, and in-person friendship offer irreplaceable value. The film's call to slow down, be real and play is simple but profound, a reminder of what's worth preserving amid rapid change. Andrew Stanton has crafted a film with layer cake density that works on multiple levels. Children will enjoy the adventure, humor, and colorful characters. Parents will recognize their own struggles in Bonnie's parents' decisions and Bonnie's social challenges. Adults of all kinds will find resonance in the film's meditation on authenticity, connection, and meaning in a digital age. The voice cast, led by Joan Cusack's gruffly infectious Jessie, Tom Hanks' resilient Woody, and newcomer Greta Lee's nuanced Lily, brings depth and personality to characters both familiar and new. The obsolete tech devices voiced by Craig Robinson, Shelby Ribara, and Conan O'Brien provide comic relief while embodying the film's themes. Tim Allen's Buzz leading an army of himself sounds simultaneously hilarious and emotionally satisfying. Visually, the film promises to be spectacular, with imaginative play sequences rendered in spangly fluorescent color that distinguishes them from the realistic rendering of the physical world. The climactic wedding ceremony must be seen to be believed, suggesting a showstopper that will leave audiences delighted and moved. But beyond the technical achievement and entertainment value, Toy Story 5 Inches matters because it engages seriously with profound questions. How will children connect in an increasingly digital world? What's lost when imaginative play disappears? How do we balance technological progress with preservation of what makes childhood valuable? These aren't questions with easy answers, but they're questions worth asking. The film's message that the fun you take is equal to the fun you make encapsulates its philosophy. Passive consumption has its place, but active creation through play and imagination offers deeper satisfaction and greater developmental benefit. In an era increasingly dominated by consumption of content, products, experiences designed by others, this advocacy for creative agency and imaginative play feels radical. If the Toy Story franchise is indeed the Beatles of animated cinema, then Toy Story 5 Inches is a fitting final album, a work that honors the past while speaking to the present, accessible yet sophisticated, entertaining while grappling with serious themes. Like Abbey Road, it may prove to be a sublime summing up and perhaps a perfect ending.
Whether viewers leave the theater committed to reducing screen time, increasing opportunities for imaginative play, or simply more conscious of how technology mediates childhood experience, the film will have succeeded in sparking necessary conversations. And if it also delivers the emotional gut punches and escalating delight that characterize the best Toy Story films, it will have earned its place in the canon. For nearly 30 years, these films about talking toys have helped us understand what it means to be human, to love and lose, to fear obsolescence and find renewal, to face endings and discover new beginnings. Toy Story 5 Inches continues this tradition by asking what childhood can and should be in the 21st century, and by insisting that even amid massive cultural and technological change, the fundamentals remain: be real, make connections, and never underestimate the power of play. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're diving deep into Pixar's latest installment in their most beloved franchise, Toy Story 5. After nearly 3 decades and 5 films, the question on everyone's mind is simple: does this sequel justify its existence, or should the series have ended with a seemingly perfect conclusion of Toy Story 3? Stick around until the end of this review because we're going to break down everything from the film's timely themes about technology and childhood to its emotional resonance, family-friendly content considerations, and whether it lives up to the impossibly high standards set by its predecessors. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Toy Story film, and how do you feel about franchises continuing beyond their original planned endings? The setup, a world transformed by technology. Most little kids love their toys. But most little kids also love their tablets. This opening observation sets the stage for what might be the most culturally relevant Toy Story film yet. We're introduced to a world that has fundamentally changed since we last visited Andy's, now Bonnie's, toys. The digital revolution that adults have been experiencing for years has now fully infiltrated childhood, creating a landscape that would be unrecognizable to anyone who grew up in the pre-smartphone era. These Wi-Fi-enabled devices have been steadily invading every bedroom in every home in 8-year-old Bonnie's neighborhood. Forgotten toys from those homes have warned Jessie the cowgirl, Bonnie's favorite toy, that once tech invades Bonnie's home, Jessie and her pals can say goodbye to playtime. The film establishes its central conflict immediately. Technology isn't just changing how kids play, it's potentially ending traditional play altogether. For longtime fans of the franchise, this represents an existential threat unlike anything we've seen before. Previous films dealt with individual toys being replaced or children growing up and moving on, but Toy Story 5 Inches confronts the possibility that the entire concept of toy-based imaginative play might become obsolete. Think about it, in the original Toy Story, 1995, the biggest technological threat was a video game console. Now, in 2024, we're talking about tablets, constant connectivity, and a completely transformed childhood landscape. The film's premise resonates because it's addressing something real that parents, educators, and child development experts have been concerned about for years. The age of toys is over. One cast aside toy whales. This declaration of doom carries weight because it feels plausible. How many of you, watching this video, have noticed kids at restaurants glued to tablets instead of playing with the toys that come with their kids' meals? How many have observed children at family gatherings choosing screens over the elaborate toy collections their parents bought for them? The film is tapping into something genuine and widespread. Woody's perspective, confirmation from the streets. Woody the cowboy, a former toy of Bonnie's, can confirm that theory. He and his crew of street toys have been finding more and more abandoned toys in the wake of this technological surge. The return of Woody, now living independently after the events of Toy Story 4, provides important perspective. He's out in the world, seeing the broader picture, and what he's witnessing confirms everyone's worst fears. The fact that Woody, the eternal optimist who always found solutions to impossible problems, can't deny the reality of the situation tells us how serious this crisis has become. Woody's status as a street toy also represents interesting character development. Throughout the franchise, Woody defined himself through his relationship with his kid, first Andy, then Bonnie. Now he's found a different kind of purpose, helping lost and abandoned toys. This evolution shows that the films continue to grow and develop their characters rather than simply recycling old dynamics. But don't take Woody's word for it, just peek inside any window and you'll find kids and parents alike sporting a blue light stare as they engage with their screens. This image, the blue light stare, is haunting and immediately recognizable. We've all seen it, the glazed expression, the hunched posture, the complete absorption in a screen to the exclusion of everything else. The film doesn't just show kids addicted to devices, it shows whole families trapped in this pattern, suggesting that the problem isn't limited to one generation. The detail that parents are just as guilty is crucial. How can parents set healthy boundaries around technology if they're equally addicted? This represents one of the film's most sophisticated insights. The crisis of childhood screen addiction is inseparable from adult technology dependence. Parents can't effectively guide their children toward healthy tech habits if they haven't developed those habits themselves. Bonnie, the last holdout. Only device-free Bonnie seems untouched by that blue screen's glowing allure. She still loves her toys, and for that, Jessie is grateful. But it also presents a bit of a problem for Jessie. If children are only interested in tapping away at their devices, then what hope does a screen-free kid like Bonnie have of making friends? Here's where the film gets really interesting from a thematic standpoint. Bonnie's continued love of traditional toys isn't presented as an unqualified good. Yes, it's valuable and authentic to who she is, but it also isolates her. In a world where all the other kids are connecting through digital platforms and shared screen-based experiences, Bonnie's preference for traditional play marks her as different, and childhood can be ruthlessly unforgiving of difference. This creates a genuine dilemma without easy answers. Should Bonnie change to fit in with her peers? Should she abandon what brings her joy just to be accepted? Or is there some way to maintain her authentic self while still finding connection with others? These are questions that resonate far beyond the film's specific scenario, speaking to anyone who's ever felt pressured to conform or hide their true interests. How are they supposed to make friends if they aren't even looking at each other? Jessie wonders. This question cuts to the heart of the film's concern about digital connection. Friendship has historically required physical presence, face-to-face interaction, shared activities in the same space. But increasingly, friendships are formed and maintained through screens, text messages, social media, online gaming. Are these connections equivalent to traditional friendship? Can you truly know someone you've never spent time with in person? The film takes a clear position. While digital connection has value, it can't fully replace embodied, in-person relationship. The parental solution, enter Lilypad. Jessie's not the only one who's noticed how hard it's been for Bonnie to make friends. Bonnie's parents have picked up on that struggle, too. And although they certainly have their reservations, they think they might have a solution. The film portrays Bonnie's parents sympathetically, as loving and well-intentioned. They're not neglectful or clueless, they're genuinely trying to help their daughter with a real problem. This nuance is important. It would be easy to make the parents villains for introducing technology, but that would be simplistic and unfair. The reality is that parents today face impossible choices, trying to help their children navigate a social landscape that's fundamentally different from the one they grew up in. It's time for Bonnie to get a device of her very own, a tablet called Lilypad. The name, Lilypad, is clever branding, natural imagery, a lily pad combined with the pad of tablet. It sounds innocent, organic, friendly. This reflects how technology is marketed to parents, as helpful, educational, connecting. The reality, as the film will show, is more complicated. Themes for parents, the central message about balance. Toy Story 5 addresses many of the promises and perils of technology. For parents in particular, it really shows how important it is to find a balance between screen time and playtime. But for kids themselves, it might offer some reflective lessons, too. Let's pause here and talk about why this film is so important for family viewing and discussion. As a reviewer and parent myself, I believe Toy Story 5 Inches offers one of the most thoughtful examinations of childhood technology use we've seen in mainstream family entertainment. It doesn't take the easy route of demonizing all technology or romanticizing a device-free past. Instead, it grapples seriously with the genuine challenges facing contemporary families. The promises of technology that the film acknowledges include connection with peers who share interests, access to information and educational content, entertainment and games, communication tools for staying in touch, organizational help scheduling playdates, etc. These are real benefits that we shouldn't dismiss. Technology has genuinely improved many aspects of life, including aspects of childhood. The film doesn't deny this. But the perils are equally real. Displacement of imaginative play, addiction and compulsive use, cyberbullying and mean behavior amplified by digital platforms, reduced face-to-face social interaction, pressure to present curated versions of yourself online, loss of boredom, which actually sparks creativity, physical health concerns, eye strain, sedentary behavior, etc. The film's call for balance might sound like a cop-out, a safe middle position that doesn't take a stand. But I'd argue that balance is the stand. It's the hardest position to maintain because it requires constant attention, adjustment, and intentionality. It's much easier to ban all technology or allow unlimited access than to thoughtfully moderate use based on individual children's needs and circumstances.
Fish, but oriented toward the beloved's flourishing. Parental love and guidance. Bonnie's parents are portrayed positively overall, not perfect, but loving, attentive, and trying their best in difficult circumstances. The mother's friendship advice provides wisdom that helps Bonnie navigate social challenges. Authenticity and self-acceptance. The film's message that Bonnie should find friends who accept her as she is, rather than changing to fit in, promotes healthy self-esteem and authentic self-presentation. Balance and moderation. Rather than extreme positions, all technology bad, or unlimited technology good, the film advocates for thoughtful balance, a nuanced message that respects complexity. These positive themes make Toy Story 5 Inches valuable viewing for families willing to engage with the film's messages and discuss them with their children. Content concerns. What parents should know. Now let's talk about content that might concern some families. I want to be thorough here because I know many of you rely on these reviews to make informed decisions about what's appropriate for your children. Crude and profane language. There are a number of toilet humor jokes in the mix, most relating to the potty training device Smarty Pants, whom you can read more about in the crude and profane language section. We see poop emojis and hear references to passing gas. The character Smarty Pants, being a potty training device, becomes the source of most of the film's bathroom humor. This is a calculated choice by the filmmakers. Bathroom humor is popular with young children. Pixar knows their audience, but it can be tiresome or inappropriate depending on family standards and children's ages. Specific concerns include near profanity. According to reports, there are several instances where characters come close to using explicit language, particularly the S-word in a word. For example, someone says, "flush me," in a context that suggests a profane interpretation. While these might go over young children's heads, older kids and teens will likely catch the implied profanity. Poop emojis, visual bathroom humor that, while tame by modern standards, still might not align with all families' preferences for children's entertainment. Gas-passing references, jokes about flatulence, which are standard fare for family films but can encourage imitation, and bathroom talk that parents might prefer to avoid. For families with strict standards around language and bathroom humor, these elements might be deal breakers. For others, they will be minor annoyances in an otherwise worthwhile film. I'd recommend watching the film yourself first if you're on the fence, so you can make an informed decision about whether it's appropriate for your particular children. Technology portrayal and concerns. We see just how invasive screens are in the home. Parents and kids alike seem to be constantly glued to them. When Bonnie gets LilyPad, she becomes almost zombie-like. Her dad is also very attached to his screen, and his own distraction may lead him to overlook Bonnie's screen time habits as a result. While this portrayal is meant to critique excessive screen time, some parents might find it too realistic and potentially modeling unhealthy behavior. Young children are impressionable. Seeing screen addiction portrayed on screen even in critical context might normalize rather than discourage it. The zombie-like description of Bonnie's behavior might be frightening for younger or more sensitive children. The image of beloved characters becoming essentially addicted to devices could be disturbing, particularly if children recognize similar patterns in their own lives or families. And speaking of those screen time habits, while Bonnie's parents initially tell her that there will be strict screen time rules, they never seem to enforce those rules. And we later learn that Lily's screen time limit cannot go lower than 1 hour. This aspect of the film has raised concerns among some parents and reviewers. The portrayal of parents failing to enforce their own stated boundaries might send the wrong message, that screen time rules are suggestions rather than real limits, or that parental authority is ineffective against technology's pull. The detail that Lily's screen time limit cannot go lower than 1 hour is particularly troubling for some viewers. It suggests that even parental controls have built-in limitations that prevent truly restrictive management, which reflects real-world concerns about how much actual control parents have over devices designed to maximize engagement. However, I'd argue this realistic portrayal might actually be valuable for sparking family conversations. Parents and children can discuss why the mum and dad in the film struggled to enforce limits, what they should have done differently, and how your family will handle similar challenges. Sometimes seeing negative examples creates opportunities for discussion and learning.